everybody, it's Kelly from Silly Moon Quilting Co. Today we're going to do a really quick video. I'm going to show you how to do this really fun design. We're going to be using our Beanie 7.3, our Beanie 5.1, and our Judy. So stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoy. Quilting Co. We're going to do a quick design here, and I'm going to be using our Beanie 5.1, Beanie 7.3, and our Judy ruler. So to start off, I have drawn a square here, and we're going to pretend this is our block, and it's 7 1/4, and I know that most blocks aren't 7 1/4, they're 7 or 8. So you can kind of play with this and adapt it as you go, but I just kind of wanted to give you a quick overview of a neat way to use the combination of these 3 rulers. So we're going to start, I've got a crosshair grid marked here, just because it's always handy to have, and it's going to help us reference some of our markings. Just going to move the 2 bigger rulers off to the side, so the Judy and the Beanie 7.3, remembering to always turn it upside down so the sticky tape is not in contact with your table or your ruler or your slip mat if you've got one. So I'm going to come down here to the corner, the bottom left-hand corner, and I'm going to drop my thread in that kind of edge here that I've got. I'm going to keep my needle in the up position so that I can bring my bobbin thread up. Keeps the back looking nice and neat and tidy. Pull those aside, give that a couple locks there, and then I'm going to drop my needle so that it stays in that down position. And I'm just going to trim that up a little bit, get it out of the way. So I'm going to start by using Beanie 5.1, and the lines that I'm going to use for this are, if you look here, there's 3 engraved lines on the angular lines here. I'm going to use the outside one, so the furthest away from the center hole, those 2 lines on either side. And I'm going to be lining them up on this line and then the line right in behind it. So I do need to come in a little bit. I'm a little bit tall there, and that's okay. So I want to line it up there and there. So I've got my line, my outside angled line on this line, and then in behind here too, the same thing, the outside angled line. And I'm just going to do a double check and make sure my center line is on here, which it is. So I'm just going to do a little circle, and I'm going to stop when I reach that bottom line. So then I'm going to move this out of the way, and we're doing odd number quarter circles when we do this. So that's our 1. So then I'm going to be using the inside of Beanie 7.3, which is would be a 3-inch circle if I did it completely. And I'm going to line up this line on here and then slide my ruler along until it's lined up same on the back. So I'm using the 2 outside angular lines. I'm going to line up that one and that one. And then I'm going to stitch along my bottom marked line, free motion. And you can use your Judy if you want to keep that nice and square, that's fine. And I'm going to stitch up. I'm going to stop when I get to there. Then I'm going to be using the outside of the Beanie 5.1, so that's a 5-inch circle if I complete it, but I'm using the same marking lines. So now I'm just going to stitch straight up that marked line that I've got on my quilt. And I'm going to stitch until I've got this line here, so the outside angular line on that line and the outside angular line on that line. I'm going to stitch till I get to that point, and then I'm going to go back to my Beanie 7.3 and do the same thing. So I've got my outside angular line, and I'm going to stitch that way in my ditch or on my line. You want to make sure you're using the outside line, and you want to just do a double check that it looks like your arcs are going to be spaced the same distance apart. That's a really good way to know that you're using the right lines. If it looks like there's a smaller gap back here, then you're not using the right lines. And I'm going to stitch back and around and stop when I reach there. And now what I want to do is I'm going to bring in my Judy. So I'm going to go on the other side here of my ruler, or of my needle, and my needle should line up pretty much with the edge here, and I should have a 1/4 inch gap at the top here. And if you have Dude, you can double check that. But you'll also notice that the line that is here on Judy, that line should be in alignment with this. Okay, that's going to make sure that we're staying nice and square. And this line here on Judy should be in alignment with this line here. So those two lines, so the lines that have that space, those two lines are where your needle is going to end up. Turn that back around. Went one stitch too far there. And then I'm going to stitch back up. I'm going to stop when I get to my corner, and then I'm going to stitch over to the end of my ruler on this side. And stop when I get there. Now I'm going to do the opposite, so I'm going to start with the outside of the Beanie 7-3 and line it up the same way. My center there. And if you have to take one stitch back, which I went a little too far, so I'm going to line that up there, and then I'm going to come back. So my center line is lined up, my outer line is lined up on this line, and my outer line is lined up on that line. Go to there, and then I'm going to move my ruler. And again, if you want to use your Judy to do this, you can. So that was the 7. Now I want to do my 5-inch circle, or 5-inch quarter circle. So I'm going to use the outside of the Beanie 5-1 and line it all up. Stitch a little bit more. Stop when I get there. Then I'm going to do the inside of the Beanie 7-3, so I need to stitch a little bit more down my ditch. Make sure I'm nice and lined up, center and on this side. So I need to go back half a stitch. Stop when I reach my edge there. And then I'm going to go down a bit. And now I'm going to do my 5-inch. Do my 5-inch circle. So now I've got my 5-inch circle. So now I've got the same on both sides, but I want to kick this up a notch, and that itself, you could do the same thing in this corner and the same thing in this corner, and that would be a really cool design as well. But we're going to change this up a little bit. So I want to now stitch over to my corner. I'm going to stitch over to my corner. And now I want to stitch down until I reach the top of this where I just stitched here. So I'm going to stitch straight down, checking that 1/4 inch. Stitching down to there. And then I'm going to continue down and go over this way. So I want to line up this line. Remember the one that's a little bit away from this line, so it's 1/2 inch away from this line and this line. So I want this one here in alignment with this line, and I want this line here in alignment with this line. There, and then straight over. Now I'm going to stitch up my arc a little bit, just by free motion, and just go nice and slow. Keep in mind, I'm using a high contrast thread here, so you're going to see any mistakes I make. And I want to now line up this line and this line underneath the second engraved line. So this is the edge, 1, 2, the second engraved line. So my center line should stay the same. And I've got my engraved line this way and an engraved line this way. And I went a little bit too far, so I'm just going to stitch back down there. And stitch over. And stitch back up, and same thing, I'm going to stitch up that arc, and then I'm going to shift my ruler down, up, and same thing, go up again, Shift up so that the second line is on there. And then shift up. And then for the last one, it's just going to be the first line. So the first inside square is going to be a little different. So we're going to do just one engraved line for this one, where all of the others were 2 spacing. I'm going to go over to this point here in my arc. Then I'm going to rotate my ruler. And I'm going to line up so that I'm coming straight up, and then I want to come back to this point here. My center line of my Judy in the back there should be in alignment with this line here. One extra stitch, and then back over to that point. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch down my arc going the other way. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So I've gone 2 here for all of these, and now what I did 1 for the last one. So I want to repeat that on the other side. So I only want to go 1 line, so I need to stitch along until I reach 1 line on there, and then slide my ruler over so that it's 1 line on this side as well. From the outside, right? So I've got 1 line here and 1 line here. Now, when I reach this corner point, because of the way Judy and any ruler is designed, the inside point is going to give me a nice sharp point. If I go around this outside, I'm going to end up rounded. So what I want to do is I want to stitch to my center point here. And I want to stop when I reach that center point, and then I want to shift my ruler up and bring it back down. So I don't want to go around that corner. There, and then I'm going to stitch back up a little bit. So that was 1. So now we want to do 2 lines. So I have to go to the second engraved line. So the second engraved line here and the second engraved line on this edge. And I'm going to stitch up to the center point, shift my ruler a little bit further, make sure I'm still on that second line. Come over and then back down till I reach my second line again. Stitch, and if you're a little bit short, you can shift this over a little bit so that you reach that center point, and then shift it up, keeping your second line on there. And then there, and then back to the beginning. And then just to complete this all the way around, if you want, you can go ahead and stitch all the way around. This kind of makes it a little bit neater. I'm just going to stitch all the way around. And if you want, you can start by stitching all the way around. Oops, I was looking at the camera, went off a bit there, but okay. And I'm just going to stop there. So I'm going to just bring my thread up. You can see how that looks. Kind of a fun design, a little bit different. And again, we're using Beanie 7.3, Beanie 5.1, and our Judy ruler to create this design. And you could easily take this design and do another one over off in the corner. So you could do this one and then do another one that butts up to this, and it would start creating some really cool secondary designs. So I hope you enjoyed this little quick video. Like to know how you liked it in the comments down below. If you liked it, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate it. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.